Going live too.
I gotta wait and make sure I hit the mute button. Can't believe it's Friday already. This week really seemed to fly by.
Yeah, my daughter didn't have school, so it like really up on Monday. I kept thinking it was a day before every day. All right, I'm live here.
Cool. Hope everyone's doing well. I was troubleshooting some stuff, and I had a quick call with Jean earlier. But before I jump into my stuff, let's see if people have something they want to work on.
I had a question come up on, I think it was Reddit from the user Anonymous. Let me pull that up. And I feel like I've seen you do something like this, but he goes, do you know among you or Joe's vast resources, a list view filtering with fuzzy search?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a great example of it. It's I can find it here in a second. I'm trying to remember. I'm blanking on the name of it. I've demoed it several times. And there's several fuzzy. I mean, they list out like maybe like 8 different types of different types of searches. Let me clarify that. And then there's several different fuzzy types of search, like engrams and. But there's a lot of there's crazy amounts of ways. Let me share my screen.
Because he was like, this is the first time I've ever really needed to do something like that. And I was like, yeah, I've never had a reason to either. So I was like, but I'm pretty sure I've heard Joe talk about it once or twice.
Yeah, it's it's a great thing. Hey, look, fuzzy match. Text sift. This is the one though. This is on the library. And this is the function, but this is the actual like GUI example they give you. I am sharing, right? You can see this?
Yep.
Which is really cool. So let's say they give you some example text, and if we're doing it in a simple in, right, which this is, everyone probably knows how to do. I can type find, and it's only going to show things that have that word in it. I can change it to a left search. Nothing apparently begins with find, but if I type where, right, it does it. You can obviously search for the right or exact, regex, but then ordered characters, that to me is pretty cool. So if you actually only had certain letters in the order, so there is an H followed by an E, followed by a and an N and an F and a D, like that's interesting. Unordered characters, so this would be anywhere. That'd be a crazy one. Now, the engrams says like how many bytes to look at, kind of like a time in chunks, and it's just something you got to play with to understand it and mess around with it. But it's, this one, and the thing is, this is a cool little simple GUI that you can learn how those algorithms work. But if you look into sift, that's where you would find each algorithm, right? I personally have never dug into it too deep, but
do you have the example of what you just showed me, that GUI on your website?
Sure. I'm trying. A simple one, I would have a hot string like that to go to it. Let's see if that actually and I'll put the link. It should updating GUI. Oh yeah. So right here. So the-Automator.com/sift will get you to it.
Can you throw that in the chat? I'll just copy it over. It's funny because this guy's like, he's really good, not just at AutoHotkeys, but like lots of languages. He's like, I've never done this before. And I'm like, neither have I.
I'm sorry, because we worked on a lot of different scripts. And by the way, good news, Rocker X is coming back probably next Monday, not this Monday, the following Monday. He'll be back working for me. And in the hotkey string help one, where you can pull up your active hot strings and hotkeys, you can type, and I believe that is a fuzzy search, if I remember right. And that was where we created our own. We kind of borrowed from it. Or it might have been the hotkey help one where you search and it looks on the AutoHotkey documentation, and it looks on like, I think, Tom, I included your YouTube channel, my YouTube channel, pulls up videos. One of those two, or maybe both, I don't recall, use a fuzzy search.
Okay. Yeah, that's a really good fuzzy search. So I just linked it in the chat. And yeah, that comes from anonymous, like 1184 from Reddit. So I'll put that on there. But yeah, that's really cool. And that was list view.
Well, what you're viewing is in a list view. Sorry, I was trying to take care of my dogs. Every time I get online, anything on a Zoom call, they start going crazy. What were you asking though? If it's a list view?
Yeah. I didn't know what that was. If that was a list view or just an edit box.
Well, it sure looks. Yeah, it looks like. Let me go back and relaunch it. Oh, that's the wrong thing.
Is this from something you made or?
Oh, no, this is from the forum.
Okay.
Even though I dabbled in a lot of these overall concepts, so I was pretty familiar with them. And let me find the video that I absolutely love if anyone's interested. But this is just an edit field, right? Where he's clearly reposting the file and displaying them line by line because it's getting updated as you type, right? But if we let's include, actually, no, not YouTube. So Python. So this one, I have turned a lot of people on to this video. It's like a 45-minute video, which I'll put this link. But here's the link to the video. But because here's like Levenstein distance. These are a bunch of different things that they use in the video and talk through. Now, granted, it's all in Python, but they talk through. They had this thing that took, I should have noted it here. I think it took like 2 weeks to run. And they got it down, if I remember right, to less than 5 minutes. Yeah, down to like 5 minutes. And what was really fascinating about it wasn't the code they did. It was their thought process and how they went about, how could we optimize this, and just kept going and going. And it was a really inspiring. It's not something you would study, but you'd put on the background and kind of listen to and just, but the notes, this is why I say, it's nice having this because they don't have that summarized anywhere. And I think I have some other stuff around them. So let me throw that in.
I forgot about the Levenstein thing. We used to hear about that at my old job all the time, talking about Levenstein.
Yeah. It's just, how different are these? How many things do you have to switch to get to the new thing? How much overlap kind of is there between them? Yeah,
I completely forgot that exists. I think I blocked it out of my memory just because we heard about it purposely. But it's always great to use. I've developed some stuff. So I guess I actually have done some fuzzy search stuff before.
Cool. I'm trying to find my open window with the live stream. Where did it go? I got like 80 tabs open. I'm usually pretty good about not having. There's there. I threw them both. Cool. Yeah, and I think it really should be used much, much more frequently than it is used, right? For the vast majority of times, people put in like an in string. These letters have to be there. And often people either misspell stuff or can't remember exactly what it is. Like Studio, let me go back to sharing. Zoom's so annoying. Where is my, there we go.
Got a good amount of people on Zoom today.
Yeah, cool. So Studio, when you hit Alt-M, this is the Omni search, right? And when you start typing, it does a fuzzy search, and Maestriath weighted it based on the initials. So like if I did WID instead of the WID, like that would probably be first because it's the first big letter in each word, right? Which I think is a brilliant way to say, hey, let's, we can do a really crazy fuzzy search, but often, so that's what I do. I don't type the words. I type the first letter of each word, and I usually very quickly find what I'm looking for, right? So it's a great example. And so, Studio is open source. You could go into Studio and look at how he's done it, right? And borrow from it. But often I think, now, Jean and QAP, I know you built in search stuff and you can look across things. Are those now fuzzy matches? I don't recall. Oh, okay. Yeah. Something you might at some point put in the drawing board. Yeah. One more thing.
One of your 100 to-do list.
Right. Yeah, fuzzy matching is it's not as hard. Well, especially when you borrow someone else's work, right? And you pass it through a function. It's like, oh man. So, all right. Did you have was that answer right good enough, Tom, you think?
Yeah, hopefully.
Cool.
He's not online right now, so we'll see. But it's a start for him, I guess.
I'm trying to close out some of my crap just so I can focus, which is a very good.
I've got a quickie for you, Joe. Really quick.
Yeah, and just FYI, like I said, hopefully you understood in my email. Like,
no, absolutely.
I'm saying, yeah, we just can't spend everything without asking anybody else if they got something to work on.
Well, this is a real quickie for you. The include button, include line. When you include other bits of code, I was playing around today with an include bit, and I included the code, and it stopped my main code running. I had to put the include at the bottom of my code for it to run. I got so fed up with it that I actually copied and pasted the whole include bit into the main code. Can you run us through the usage of include and where it should be in your code and the structure?
Well, to start off, I wish, who was I talking to? Dimitri, I think. I think he said in version 2, because he does a lot in version 2, that it's actually different. You have a specific spot that it has to be located.
I'm now version 1.
Yeah, okay. This is what I thought. In version 1, I'm gonna generalize. It doesn't matter where it is. But in Maestriath, talking about Maestriath, I made a video maybe 3 months ago on the general topic of an include in place, and I'm like, what the hell is that? So he made me realize every time you use an include isn't necessarily to include functions. But for me, that's how I almost always use includes, but that's just how I do stuff, right? Sometimes you're doing an include that isn't to a function. You're doing an include to actually have code run. That is where that location matters, where you use the include. You want it to be in the spot where literally it would be going, right? And that's where it would be used. Now, just because it's a big topic and not a lot of people understand this entirely with AutoHotkey, let me back up a step a little further. So by default, and I can't remember. Am I sharing? I don't see any highlighting.
You're not.
Okay. I gotta, and it's funny. I need to make a hotkey. I can't even see the window. Where for Zoom? What is it? To automatically share my screen, because this is ridiculous. Where?
I didn't know that about number 2, that it has to be in a certain spot. It's interesting.
And like I said, someone can maybe Google that and check it real quick while we're.
That's what I'm trying to find, but there's no documentation yet, really.
It's a separate documentation entirely. So if you find it, and I would think
that specifically for include.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Which
is also part of the reason why there's a lot of confusion around the include, using includes in your function library, your different libraries. So if I go to the-Automator, which is a great site, by the way. So under here, and we go to functions, AutoHotkey. And by the way, I have a version 2 page now, just because it's becoming more and more prominent, right, of people asking questions. So, and here, use external by utilizing an include command. Is this the page where I talk about it? Because here we go. So I knew I had this here. By default, AutoHotkey, if you don't even use an include, it will search for functions in 3 places. There's where's the script running from, an lib folder under that. There's under your My Documents, there's an AutoHotkey folder and a lib folder under that, which I personally never use. This is the one where I store everything under where the active, like your installed version. It's usually your main one, but if you happen to launch a different AutoHotkey version from somewhere else, it would be from that active script, the lib folder there. And so if you put a function, and I don't know how much we should go in depth in this, with the name of your function as the file name in that folder, you don't need to use an include, which is what I predominantly do. Like if we load my library, this is a really great, to me, functionality is like these. And if we open one, I don't even know what this is. So, and actually, here's a good example where it's even more complicated. AutoHotkey will look, so this is the word character, and notice there's no spaces or anything in it. But I don't need to use an include when I reference these functions because the first word here up to the underscore is character. This matches that file name, right? And these are located in that library I mentioned, the one, but any of those three would work. I can use this character count or character repeats anywhere. And as long as I'm launching from the AutoHotkey folder above the AutoHotkey script executable from above this folder, AutoHotkey will automatically search there, pull them in. I don't need to use an include. It's great, right? Everyone's happy. The biggest problem with this, which is what most people say, is like, well, if I go share this script with someone, I will forget to go pull those in, and then they don't have those files, right? Well, again, in Studio, if you hit Alt-M and you say publish, when you do that, it copies everything, it gets the includes too and puts them all in together onto your clipboard for you, and it pulls them all in. So you can share that, and that'll be one that actually has everything.
Well, awesome. So is there a way, because I've got files all over the place. I'm always got the wrong version of the file. It's running in the wrong directory. Is there any way that you can coalesce, the Studio can do it for you and say, look, this is all you've got. You've got duplicates here. You've got to get rid of these and let's put them all in one place.
Well, unless I'm misunderstanding you, I mean, that's what the library is doing. When you say you have them all over the place, are you saying you have different versions of the same file?
Yeah, I've got a different version of the same file. I've got libraries in different folders. I just don't know where my script, I don't know where my code is. It's hit and miss. So is there a way that the Studio can go and say, look, this is all the code I found. I'm going to, be a librarian and basically categorize it for you?
No, I mean, Studio is not doing anything as far as applying intelligence, right? It's behaving kind of similarly to, it's really kind of irrelevant because it's what AutoHotkey is going to do, when you try to execute is what really matters, right? And as I said, AutoHotkey will look in those these three places automatically, unless you use an include. And of course, you don't have to use an include to files in this folder. They can be anywhere you want, right? Any destination. That's kind of irrelevant. Of course, if you're using different computers, make sure all the paths are the same, this is also why this is a nice functionality. I keep trying to highlight this text, but wherever your AutoHotkey executable is, there's an lib folder there, and it will automatically kind of like it be a self-reference, right? You don't have to worry about that.
Okay.
But that's what I do. That's why in this folder, you'll see I have a lot of files, and these, just sit there. They don't always get used, but AutoHotkey will search here. And then I have a no longer used folder just because I was having so many in there, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna clean this up a little bit. But that's what I do is I put them all into, see how this is where I have AutoHotkey installed in this folder right here. This is the lib folder under it, and this is everything in it. And that way it's automatically searched. I don't have to use includes, and it's easy peasy.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Just to maybe to come back to it's interesting having ways not to use the include, but when you have to use the include, just imagine that the file that you include is getting completely inserted in your current script. So if it's not running, it's because maybe there's something in your include file that is running at the beginning and that would interfere with what your main script is doing. And maybe if you put it at the end, so that's why it solves your issue at that time. So if your include only includes functions, as Joe said, there's no issue. It can be put anywhere because functions are never executed by themselves. They just have to be available in the file, in the script, or in the include. But if your include is actually executing some code, and I'm doing it often just to split some part of my code, then it's important to have the include being inserted at the right place where this code has to be executed. So that's what you
Something
should,
like a
maybe you
set
should,
timer.
that's what you should check in your include file.
Yeah,
Yeah,
is
something like a set timer or something like that could be
or a
triggered
hotkey
wrong
or
moment.
whatever, right? I mean, there's so many things that will stop it from moving forward.
Me, I'm
Right.
using it for language file, for example, to insert the language file that can be translated. So the language file is a list of variable with pieces of text in it. So, but it has to be at the right place to be processed correctly by my main script. So it's an example of something that you can insert and have it at the right place.
Now, one thing, and it's kind of funny this topic came up because just the other day I was having this weird issue, and I asked Jean if he had an idea what was going on, and he wasn't quite too sure of my question. But I'm trying to find. Oh, it's one of these. All right, let me move. Well, that wouldn't help. I don't think. Let me move site because when I double click this, oh, good, it's over there. Let me make sure there's nothing privileged in here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I just launched it. I'm an idiot. That's
Good
not
thing to throw out there is always make sure you're not sharing data with us. You don't want everybody to see on YouTube.
amen to that. So the other day I was doing some stuff. Let me see. Hold on. Oh, those are junk. Okay. So in my newsletter, which hopefully everyone's subscribing to, I get a lot of people that give me a bad email address, like a@b.com. These are just some examples of ones that have bounced, and I want to remove those from my thing. So I'm using API calls. Well, I wanted to make a function that I could call from any script, not from something in a direct spot, that I could automate removing those things from my library. So I wasn't too worried about this because I have an any file in my folder, and it reads in my username and password. So when I share this file, it doesn't have my usernames and password, right? Which is not part of the point, but it is a really good thing to say if, like, hey, if you're ever doing stuff like this, it's a nice little precaution. What was interesting, though, was I asked Sean, here is, and actually it's funny, that should be commented out. This is my function I'm calling. And what I wasn't sure about, because what turned out to happen was, Guy, this is really important for you. When I was launching this, when I was referencing this script from a different folder and I brought it into my library, it was using the other script's Active Directory as the path. And so it was trying to read this file in that other folder, not this local folder where this script is. And once I finally realized that, I'm like, oh, I need a way to say, use this folder, not that other folder. So this is a little split path. I get the path to the active AutoHotkey and it uses it. But the reason what I thought about this was I asked Jean, I'm like, hey, if these two lines were, crap, I'm acting like I'm in studio. Let's say they were up here instead of where they were. So they're outside the function. They're not in the function. Would this still work? And I think John was like, I don't know. Like it does, when AutoHotkey references this library automatically, does it pull the whole file or does it just, what's that?
Yeah.
You're muted.
Am I still muted?
No, you're good.
No,
okay.
I thought Guy was talking.
Okay. Yeah, so it depends where that's the point. And when you only call a function, in fact, I think it includes the whole file, even if it only call a function.
Yeah, and my point, John, is what if I don't use an include and I'm letting AutoHotkey go get that, right? That was where I'm like,
by using the library name as a prefix to your function names.
Well, I'm referencing it automatically. I'm not using an include to it. Is that what you meant by that?
Automatically, you mean that the library name is used in the function name?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, but it's also important. It has to be in a certain spot, right? It has to be in one of the library folders.
Yeah, I haven't tested. I remember we discussed that. We haven't tested it, and
I did.
You solved your issue after that. Yeah. So, what's your conclusion? My guess is that if it is included automatically, it will still include the whole file, but only call the function that you required. But the whole file would be inserted. Where would it be inserted, as we discussed earlier, if it was an include? I guess that the include will be done at the place where the function is called. Is that what
Yeah.
you found?
Well, to solve, I didn't answer that second question of the where is it included in the sense of, but you are correct.
Maybe it's at the beginning. Maybe it's at the beginning of your script, or it's at the first call to this function. Something that we would have to make a little test.
But I did confirm that even this is still used. It's AutoHotkey runs through it, right? It's automatically. It doesn't have to be inside the function.
Yeah. But maybe it interferes with something else in your main script.
Well, ironically,
when you have it outside the function.
Well, the other thing though is I'm inside a function, so the scope is separate. So that's when I'm like, well, even though that did work, I need to move it inside the function in order for that to work, or pass it as a variable, right? A parameter, excuse me. But yeah, it was. Hopefully, this isn't too nerdy for y'all, but it was a really good lesson for me because I just hadn't thought about. Boy, when I don't use I get when I use an include, think of it as AutoHotkey. It thinks it's literally there. It goes and uses that whole file, right? But when I don't use an include, I'm like, I don't know. Does it just use that function and nothing else in that file? But it turns out it uses the whole file. It's basically using an include for the file, not just for that function, right? Which is a really important thing to realize.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, something I would do just for people watching is whenever it is being called, I would put a comment there, because then I would be sitting there looking at my script and be like, where's this function if I didn't have my include in there? So just being like, hey, this function's actually being called from, this library where it's at this folder. Because then I would just sit there so confused, a year later, like, where's this function in my code? How's it working?
Well,
sorry
Tom,
to interrupt, just to tell you, Joe, that we have a question on the YouTube.
Oh, thank you. Sorry. Yeah. What I was going to say real quickly, Tom, is I hear what you're saying, but once you do it a lot, it becomes second nature and you know what's there. Now, the bigger problem is you forget when you share it with other people, they don't have it. But like I use it so much, there's no reason for me to add it, or you know what I mean? But until you get used to it, I could totally see what you're saying. I'm trying to get back to the
because I don't use it that way very often.
Yeah. And it's all, this is the whole thing about AutoHotkey too, right? It's whatever makes sense to you, right? I mean, I'm still trying to find, there we go. Sorry. Okay. Do you have?
It's a question about using AutoHotkey to update or to change a host file, which is a system file.
Yeah.
And of course, it requires to have administration right to do that. So the script has to be launched with admin right. Yeah.
Yeah, which that would be the first thing I would do is let me start a new one, and I'll use QAP. Oh, wrong QAP menu. What? Come on. Why is it not? That's weird. There we go. So AutoHotkey, and launching scripts, run.
There's something in the chat that you gave me. I think you might be looking at if the script is not an admin, raise it to an admin.
Yeah, there's a command that you can use to automatically launch your script, so you don't have to right click on it. And
no, I'm saying it's in the code. It's in the code.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. There's an actual command that will run it automatically.
No, absolutely. But this is something that Joe gave me a while back. So
yeah,
there we go. The same command as you got there. Yeah, absolutely.
Run as. Yep, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Well, and this basically says, hey, if this script is not an admin, relaunch it as an admin.
Yeah, I use this all the time. This is one of my
favorite. You relaunch the script. You relaunch the script is relaunched it by itself, running as admin.
Yes.
Yeah, and it definitely is something that at times is needed. However, it's something to be used with caution too, because look, also any script you launch with this script will also be at that same level. So it'll be an admin also. And, I think all of us kind of know what we're doing, right? At least in the sense of we know we're doing stuff. So be careful with it. But that's how, viruses and things can take over stuff as if they're being run as admin. But it's not that you shouldn't do it. It's just be cognitive that, you know, especially if you're giving it to someone else and they're doing it, that they may not understand that. And somehow I've hidden my chat on YouTube. Sorry.
And just so this person knows, I didn't really see what they were asking. If it's for work, a lot of times this will not work because, you know, they don't want to give you admin rights. I always ran into that issue a lot. That was so limiting for me sometimes.
So to back up a step, for those that don't know, as John alluded to, it's a, you know, the host is a system file, but what it does is you can put IP addresses, right? Isn't that what it is? And it'll easily block from anyone from going to there, or edit, you know, if you remove something from there, it'll allow you to go there. But like when I was at TI for a short term, they blocked social media because they came up with some whatever excuse. But for those of us that actually worked with the internet, you know, social media stuff, you know, we're like, hey, this is our job. And but we weren't able to edit that host file, even though we were admins, they still had it locked down in a way that we couldn't do it.
Where is it located? Is it in the root or C root?
System 32, I'm going for memory. The Windows System 32 is where in my brain says. It's actually on my list to do a video to make a tool to, hey, I need to get some work done. I'm going to block, you know, Facebook and social channels so I can not accidentally click it and get distracted.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of the IT thing, just to throw it out there for some people, a lot of people will sit there and be like, you know, I need admin rights, or I need to do something that might throw something like file delete. I know a lot of times on computers, your antivirus will be like, whoa, why is this program trying to anti-delete or delete stuff? You know, just talk to your boss, talk to your IT team. AutoHotkeys, you know, I could not get it installed on my computer. I needed to run scripts and test stuff. So, you know, I reached out to the IT team. I explained to them, here's what AutoHotkeys is. Here's what I plan to do with it. Here's why we need it. And, you know, they had a meeting about it, talked to me and everything, and we got it live. And, you know, they gave me access where I could do stuff like you're talking about and getting into those system files and stuff. So, hey, it doesn't hurt to ask.
Sorry, Tom. Sorry. I think we have two Jean Lalonde here. And maybe
that echo there.
Just mute yourself, yes, or put headphones. So the second Jean Lalonde is someone I gave the link. I gave my link, so he's now online with my name because I put that link on the YouTube chat.
You guys kind of look alike.
But this second Jean Lalonde is the one asking about the host file, I guess.
Now there's three of you.
Yeah, so that's why I put the wrong link. I wasn't sure what link to
no worries.
put. So.
Yeah, if you can just mute the well, I assume it was the YouTube that was bleeding. That's why when I said when I first started, I need to make sure I hit that mute right away on YouTube because it bleeds over.
Yeah.
Nice little loop feedback there.
So and I saw another question on running a macro. How do we get AutoHotkey to launch? Sorry, where would it go? How to set a macro that will only activate when a certain application is open, right? So the first question I would have, which I wrote, is like, you know, is when you say a macro, are you meaning other AutoHotkey code or some other program? It doesn't really matter, but just to help me understand what you're planning to do with it. And I would, especially if it's open, you know, just to clarify, when you say open, are you meaning a dictionary? A GUI program, or is it just matter that it's running? Is it active? There's a lot of different things, but it's pretty easy to do. So I see someone sharing their screen. Just make sure that there's nothing privileged, which it doesn't look like. It's fine. So we're viewing Jean's of the other Jean, I assume.
Yeah, one of the two others.
John number 2.
Is there a way to rename your name on the Zoom?
Yeah, when you first log in, it asks you, but people
but after
you're
your
clicking to get in.
After you're in, Yeah, you can right click on it somewhere and rename. Right click over your picture and edit your. You can rename. Yeah.
Okay, so for the two other Jean Lalonde, you could right click on your Jean Lalonde thumbnail, and
we don't even know your name. Yeah. It's just to have something to easily refer, so we don't get confused.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just changed mine to real Jean Lalonde.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what are we?
Yeah. So who's sharing? It's I don't know how to pronounce it. Parigi 2.
And if you want to try to unmute just for a second, we'll see. Or if you can drop the volume, go to YouTube, or just close YouTube. You don't even need to have it open right now that you're in here.
All right, yeah, if you want to mute and try to come in again.
Hello?
Yeah.
There we go.
Much better.
Thank you. I'm new to AutoHotkey.
Cool.
I used to write my own scripts and copy from some of your scripts. Like the Automator is my first guide. I used to use most of the scripts in my most of the daily life, and I used to follow the tab nation too.
Cool.
Thank you for help. And today I found some issue with this script to update my host file, which is located in the system32 in a Windows directory, which writes. And when I try to run the script, it is not entering into the required location. Like when I tried using the temporary location, temp folder, to place the file into the host.txt, and file has been copied to the required location of the main system32, and it doesn't work for me. Could you please help out?
Is the copy working? The file copy working or not?
Yeah, file copy working for the temporary folder. I mean, I tried for to copy from, I think, in this 234 line.
Yeah, but line 237, is it working when you copy to
it is not
Windows?
working.
It's not working.
Yeah.
So yeah. It's probably because this is a system folder and you need to be admin to copy something to this folder. So your script should run as administrator.
Actually, this is not whole script. Is it necessary to run the whole script as admin, or the particular hotkey can be?
In order to, I guess, I'm not sure, but in order to have your script being able to copy to the Windows, to a Windows subfolder, it has to be admin. It has to run as admin.
But just to clarify, Sean, with everything inside that script would be run as an admin. So to your question, you can't have parts of it as admin and parts of it not, right? You would just say, hey, have a second script that's run as an admin level and just pull it out.
Yeah. Okay, so
running only Notepad as you do, running Notepad as admin is okay, but it won't take your file where you want it to be.
Right.
Okay, actually these 239 and 40 has been copied from some of the scripts, and I use it to edit as per the requirement here. Here it is as per my requirement, and this is as copied from some of the internet.
So we don't know what else there is in your script. I think Joe mentioned that earlier. Just realize that when you run the script as administrator, it can do anything anywhere on your system, and it can be dangerous. So if there's no too much risk doing that, what you could do is at the top of your script to insert the lines that will relaunch your script as administrator, then your hotkey, then all your hotkey in your script will run as admin. That's what we don't like to do, but just maybe you should isolate this hotkey is another script so that only that will run as admin, not the whole hotkeys that you have in your script.
To run only the hotkey is to be run as an admin.
Yeah, so I would put it.
But there's a few lines, and maybe Joe, you just showed that earlier.
I think it's in the
lines.
chat.
Yeah,
Or
it has.
also-
Yeah, if you look in the chat, can we see the chat if we joined after it was posted in Zoom?
Not in Zoom, no.
No. So,
But I can
okay. So Tom just posted it again. So in the chat, you have the 2 lines that
There's
say
a-
that if the current script is not running as administrator, restart it as administrator. And when it is restarted, because it is admin, it will skip this line and just continue with the rest of your script.
Another thing too to throw out there, I've had issues when it comes to doing file deletes or file copies or moves, is antivirus sometimes, even if it is being ran as admin, can sometimes cause some issues, especially when you're messing with a folder. I mean, if it's on your desktop, as long as you run it as admin, you should have no issues. But I've had issues where my antivirus kicks in, even though I'm admin, just because I'm messing with a important system file. There's a lot of stuff in System 32 that you delete a single file, it could like mess up your computer pretty badly.
Okay, thank you. I mean, my script only hits the host file only. I think it doesn't affect the whole system, right? The whole script is belongs to other links. I think you can see these are some of the hotkeys I have used for launching the browsers only. That's it.
Yeah, that'd be bad. Not bad,
Yeah,
but you don't want
all those applications would be running as administrator.
Right.
Something that you run from a script running as administrator is launched also as administrator, which is not necessarily
ideal.
Ideal or secure.
But what you could do is just like you're doing on line 190, right? Or on any of these where you're launching something else. Take the little bit of script that you wrote that you want to have as an admin, put it in its own file. Inside this script, say run that script, right? And then you don't have to think I have 2 different scripts, right? But because the run as admin is in the other script, it won't make this one. It's not the other way around. Just because a script you're launching with this one.
And it will find your temporary file as it does in your main script.
Yeah, I have a point here. In this line 241, can you see this run as administrator has been running the notepad file and the host file has been opened using this.
Yep.
Let me show it. Okay, Windows Shift.
And by the way, these are very common issues where, especially when you're working, at a company and stuff that you run into this kind of stuff, unfortunately. And you'd have the same issue with any program, right? It's not AutoHotkey. It's just how things are done in Windows.
Yeah, in this 241, when I run this notepad as admin, when I edit the file, it has been updating in the host file as per the location.
It's opening Notepad with this file.
Yeah, it's opening as an admin. It's working fine.
Yeah.
I update something. It has been storing in the location only. I think you could understand.
I don't quite understand that last little bit about the location. What was that?
Yeah. I mean, just observe the 241 line. This one.
Yep.
Yeah. It is working fine with my work, but with my notepad, it has been working right. But I want to use the input box. In 231, I added the new one using to disable some website. I used the input box. This is the manual one. 241 is the manual one when I had to open the.
Okay, I get it.
And you have to save the file yourself. That's what you mean? To save as. Yeah.
And to clarify, can you just confirm this? Because it is, and it sounds like you're doing a good job of testing things and not trying to do too much at one time, right? Which can be problematic. Is when Notepad gets launched, and you said I get it. I understand it's launching and opening. You can type. When you save, does it accept the changes?
When you save from
just because you open the file. Yeah, just because you open the file and you read it, you type.
Can you see this?
Okay. Good. That, I just want to make sure, because if it didn't, then everything we do probably wouldn't work, right? Because it's just you can't do the stuff as an admin. But the fact that that works, then that's a really good sign. So I guess the question gets back to, well, again, it's because you have to launch this.
Yeah, this has been launched as an admin. If I update something here and save it, it is working fine.
Sorry, when you say this, what are you referring to?
But I'm referring that I don't want to open this file and to be updated in this, the input, when I give the input to the input box only. I don't want to open this file.
You don't want to use Notepad. You want it to be done automatically by your
So-
script. Yeah.
So the this is
input box.
Notepad is what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
Notepad is a fallback solution, but you want it to be not having to do it. So I think that what Joe suggested, that you take the line 238 and you put it in a separate script that you could name a copy admin, copy as admin, something like that. And
Okay.
then call this file from line 238 instead of doing the command itself. So you copy this line, you create a new file, you're inside, so Control N, and you paste your line 238 in a new file.
Do I want to create a new file always?
Yeah. Yeah, you copy this line.
Well,
in
we're
your
going to create a
clipboard.
new script to launch as an admin.
I don't want
But
to
it's
mess
a
with many files. Yeah, I just
But it's
want
going to be a one-time thing. It'll be automated.
Okay.
How about you just do what we're saying, and then if you don't like it, we can stop. But at least this way we make some progress.
Oh, okay.
I think once you see what we do, you'll like the solution. Is where I'm.
Yeah.
I'm going.
Yeah, I got some solution. Thank you.
But did you want to? You want to? You understand? So
You don't want to try it?
yeah. Do you want to try it, or do you just want to? You'll solve it yourself. And it's fine either way.
Yeah, I will solve it myself, and
Okay.
I will. Thank you.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah, it is a.
But sometimes it's good to have things in separate file. I know some people like to have everything in the same script file. When they see a new script, they would like to be able to insert this new script in their main file and have everything in the same place. But sometimes it's just not the good approach, because things will interfere one with the other doing that. So having different scripts in different files can be a better solution to have things working the way you wish.
Yeah, I literally have, at least right here, I can see when AutoHotkey launches in my main script, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 other just AutoHotkey scripts that it is launching automatically, right? And it's the other really nice thing about it is, so like my window snipping tool, you've probably seen that, right? I use that a lot. Well, initially I designed that in my main script, but then I had people saying, hey, I really like that functionality. Can you give that to me? But it was tied up with all my other crap. And I'm like, you know what? This is better to have as a separate script. And then if people ask for it, I can give it to them and I don't have to untangle all this stuff, right? So I have my spell check, my button clock, which has the time, which replaces your start menu, and several other tools that automatically, get run every time I restart AutoHotkey, my main AutoHotkey script. Does anyone else have anything that they're...
Did the question from Ashton being answered to his satisfaction about using WinActive to execute some code only when a given window is active? Maybe he left. I don't know if he's still on the YouTube chat.
I think he's still there.
There's two ways to do that.
Yeah, maybe he left.
But yeah, like if when active.
Yeah.
He says I am here.
Yeah, the WinActive command itself is deprecated, and so it's just advised to use the if around it. And then if you wanted, which I was just playing with earlier today, and it is kind of confusing, there's a way to make context sensitive hotkeys and things to say, the directive # if when active, that is used to say, hey, if I'm in this, active window, when I hit Control S, do one thing, but if I'm in a different window, do another thing. So to me, it's confused. That's a bit of confusion, but it's,
is it what is deprecated or?
deprecate when active, if when active, if you look it up, let me share my screen here and we'll look it up. So if I type in, I think just if when active, oops, I was hitting the wrong hotkey. Oh, of course it opens the other window.
Yeah, it's deprecated. Use the function instead. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it actually, and this brought me right to it, was use this and just use it, wrap it with an if, right? And that way, and the other important one, by the way, Ashton, sorry, is
okay, he's there.
The other important thing to remember with, is the set title match mode is very important to, if you're trying to match it perfectly or whatever, you look at that set title match mode, because is that what it is? Do you guys remember?
Set title match mode too.
Yeah, well, it just depends on what you're doing. And so there's the speed, like there's the speed and the matching pattern, or if you want to use a regex. But it just play with that a bit, because you'll think, oh, this is easy, and it doesn't work. But you have to have either the case specific, or sometimes, like my program here, the name of the part of the title changes. So you may want to just have HK Studio, but what if this was to the right, and then the stuff on the left changes and it doesn't find it? So there's an exact match. There's like an in kind of thing, or a regex. So there's different ways you can do it. I often add these two. When I first try to use it, if it breaks, I add these two. If it works, then I start playing with it to figure out what do I actually need to do. But don't be too concerned when it says slow. It's still pretty darn fast.
Oh yeah. Some people get pretty caught up on.
Well, it's funny. So Ashton, so let me go ahead, since I'm sharing my screen here. I was talking to Jean earlier. Let me show. So as I've mentioned a couple times, I use this site. I write the newsletter in Microsoft Word, and then I come in here to Word, and let's pretend I had stuff. What? Let's say I had pasted this from Word. It converts it to HTML for me, right? And then I take this and then I manipulate and stuff. Well, I use QAP, Quick Access Pop-Up from Jean Lalonde, great tool. I have a crap load of stuff. Let's say I wanted to add a reference to, actually, I think I have, Tom, let's see if I have one for you. So HTML Tab Nation. So when I reference Tom, so see how it puts in a picture of his Tab Nation icon? So yeah, so I don't have to write all the stuff freehand, right? Which would take me forever. What was occasionally messing me up was my hotkey that I use to trigger QAP is a hotkey button that natively, if I closed QAP, it would navigate away from this page. And so usually like back. Once, yeah, it would go like a back or a forward of the other one, which I also have on my mouse. But and it was really frustrating because I would have spent like 30 minutes getting really close because I had a lot of pictures and other stuff and subtleties, and then all of a sudden all my work's gone, and I can't hit back. It's gone. It's just gone. So I was working on a solution, and let's see if it's so this is what I was. So literally, this is so crazy. It's like someone's spying on me. I first install this keyboard to look and see what AutoHotkey was interpreting, and it was this X button 1 and X button 2. Those are the things that AutoHotkey was interpreting, which right when I saw it, I'm like, well, yeah, because in QAP, that's what I have as a trigger. So what I did was I said, hey, let's set these both low and 2, and then said if when active. Now this makes it a custom hotkey tied to that Chrome window. I shouldn't say that because it really could be anything, right? I should also tie it maybe to Chrome as well, which would be easy. But to say, hey, if either of these things are pressed, just don't do anything. This was just to see if it was working. At first, I thought it was the browser back and forward button because I have those on my keyboard, and I thought because that's what they do on a browser, but it wasn't those. It's the X button 1, X button 2, and so. Now, Jean, thankfully, I had asked Jean about this, and he's like, yeah, but if this script launches after QAP, then your trigger for QAP won't work. to pull it up. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm going to need to figure out, how do I make sure that QAP is always the last thing launched? Because I want to use that. I want it to trigger a QAP, not to trigger the page navigation.
Mm-hmm. And just maybe to answer Ashton's question, in this example that you have on screen, everything between line 7 and line 16 will run only if the active window has htmlonline.com in its title. For your need, you say that you need your macro to your script, to your hotkey to work only when you are in Chrome. So you would replace HTML outline with Chrome, and then any window that has Chrome in its title will not in fact, you would replace when active with when not active, I guess, because you want your macro to run. You want it to run only in Chrome. Okay, so if when active is what you need. So you could just put Chrome, but then Chrome could be too permissive, and you would use AHK class or AHK exe as Joe is showing on the screen. So for example, if you put AHK class Chrome widget win 1.
Yeah. So
here instead of this. So of course, between and everything until you have if when active on line 16 with nothing after. So that's a kind of closing this section. So that's how you could have hotkeys to be launched only when Chrome is running.
I don't use this a lot. Do I need quotes around the whole thing? Is that what it is? This whole thing?
But for Ashton, it's only if it runs in Chrome. So it doesn't need the page title that you have after HTML. But to answer your question, I don't think that you would put quotes.
It's not required. It'll work both ways.
It will work. Okay.
There we go. It didn't seem time. It didn't work with the quotes in there.
Yeah,
without them, because here is
just to show, if you are doing the same thing in another window that is not Chrome, your hotkey, your message box doc will not work.
Right. Yeah, my normal stuff is working there.
Yeah.
So and actually here also, I should have thought of that. But when I'm in Chrome, it's probably stuck. I need to reload. That's something else.
I got something when you guys are done this one.
Launch it. There we go. There's my dog. But if I do this, and actually to be fair, I need to relaunch this. And now when I click it, it doesn't pull up dog. So hopefully that helps. These obviously are nothing you need to worry about. Oh, the other thing, if you're using this, you probably want to turn it off. If you have anything else after it, everything is going to look for this. Right. So by doing this after it, I can have normal code after this.
Yeah. You need to close this section.
Yeah. Now, or let's say I had a second one, this is what I do. I might have another one.
Mm-hmm.
And let's say this was Excel, which it's not just typing Excel. Let's just pretend this was. You don't have to, it'll come down here. It'll close it just fine because it says now, hey, if Excel is active. So I kind of do these multiples at a time.
Yeah, line 13 will replace line 7. It's not additive. It's not one on top of the other. It just replaces the when active command that you had on line 7, and the line 18 will replace the previous command with nothing. So then from that point, it will start to work with any window.
You know what, Jean, that's a really good point. It's not that this is needed to end wrapping it. It's that you're calling the same directive. Everything that begins with a pound is a directive.
Directive, yeah.
And it's just you're saying, hey, reuse that directive, but now make it applicable to everything.
It's open to everything, yeah. So line 12 is not required. It may be a good practice to have kind of pair of if when active, just to have your sections well delimited, but only line 19 will be required in this case. I hope it answers your question, Ashton.
Yeah, let us know if it doesn't. And Tom, and let's see if he says anything in here. I think that's a pretty good solution now. Tom, what were you?
And this command that we just discussed is not deprecated. It's
This
the one that
one-
is. Yeah, this one is not.
Right.
So it will work for. I don't know how I don't know what really deprecated mean in time.
Fair enough.
In terms of calendar,
Right.
but it could be at some point not working. Of course,
'Cause-
if you go to AHK2, then anything can be deprecated from of what you use from version 1. But yeah.
So Tom, what are you doing here?
Let me pull up my chat here just in case he says something. He's basically just asking how to have a function or a command run at certain times during the day. This is kind of the simple way I've always done it, is I'm just using so there's really actually two ways. Windows actually has a built-in scheduler where you could have it run your script automatically at certain points of the day. If you want to actually build the functionality into your script specifically, maybe you're sharing it with a bunch of people at work. You don't want to have to sit there and get them all to schedule it constantly. So I'm just doing like a set timer, and it's going off every minute, you know, depending on what you want to do. Maybe you want it to go off once an hour. So just adjust the milliseconds here. So 60 means 60 seconds because it's times 1,000. And basically every minute it's going to jump down to the handler here, which you can name whatever you want. I just called it time check real quick. So it's going to jump down here and it's going to format the time, save it as the variable time. Once again, you can change that to whatever. And here I just copied this real quick because I couldn't remember the format of this, but here I'm checking the month, day, and year. There's a few different ones you can use that are built-in variables. There's what is there, like a hour? I think there's like a minute, a second. I can't remember how many different ones there are. So you can adjust that, and then down here you can obviously adjust this to be like, once again, I haven't used this in a while. I think it's capital H's is hour. Correct me if I'm wrong at any point. I'll find the website that has all these built-in variables and link it real quick. So you could check like something like this. So let's say I'm just caring about what month it is. So this is going to grab the system month. If variable in either contains
Which variable?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Forgot to update that. Thanks.
So if it is January, August, or December.
Yep. So basically it's going to see what if the month is 1, 8, or 12.
Yeah.
If it is, go ahead and do something. So this is where you would insert your code. This is an easy way to kind of do it like this. Now, let's say you want to, just to throw it out there, each month maybe something different happens. Instead of doing it this way, you can always just have multiple ifs, I guess.
Or use the new select, the new switch command. I'm not used to using this one, but it's a new command that is a kind of case with case.
Yeah, this is the way I've kind of done it, where if I have certain times or months, obviously if I'm doing months, I probably shouldn't have my script going off every minute.
Yeah, just a note about set timer that that's good to know is that the first time your command at line 5 will be executed is after the first minute. And if you want the script to be executed for the first time as soon as you launch your script, you have to also call your time check command at first. So that's just one thing that is good to know, that the first execution will only be when your timer is doing it after 1 minute, and then again every minute. But if you want
if you want it right away, you can just remove the return here. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it will work. Yeah, good point.
You could just do that.
Yeah.
But another thing to be aware of, because I've tried doing some of this stuff before in AutoHotkey, and what gets tricky is, especially with the set timer, is you're going to keep coming back to this thing over and over, right? Often, you want to make sure after it happens once, I don't come back to it, right? Because if you're looking for the month, like I was thinking, even just by the hour and by the minute, like it happens, it can happen multiple times. So you got to plan. That's all. It's not that it's bad. It's just that you got to say, okay, we're going to exit the app, or we're going to set a trigger where we're no longer checking, like we're kind of succeeded in this.
Yeah, so you can always put like a set timer off.
Yeah.
And if you want this to kind of just run, so you're not having to launch it every single day if you're restarting your computer, or, there's some times where the script will just crash. You can always just put it in your startup folder.
And how is it when we want the timer to run only once?
That's a -1, if I remember right.
Yeah, there's an option for that.
Yeah, which is kind of weird to me, but I remember Maestri a couple times has said this is when it's applicable, right?
I didn't know that. I always just use the set timer off.
Yeah, but it's again, you may want it to run a couple times, right? But it's when you only want it to run once, that
you want to run
-1
in 1 minute, but only one time. Yeah, you could turn it off as you do, but there's also another technique, which is to give a negative in your number. You would enter negative 60,000, so it will run only once after 1 minute.
Oh, that's cool. I did not know that.
And now, so
yeah, if period is negative, the timer will run only once. That's in the doc. Yeah.
And the other thing that the vast majority of people that end up using set timers, while this is all, and Tom's perfectly right? This is a great way to do what he's talking about. But sometimes, AutoHotkey is single threaded in itself. If you're using version H, it's multi-threaded. But sometimes especially with like IE, you will trigger a download and then want to say, hey, go save, but IE gets stuck because it's single threaded. Set timers are a simple way to kind of work around that single threaded issues, just to FYI. It doesn't do multi-threaded, but it makes it feel like you are.
Yeah. I've done some weird, we'll call it hackery to make it seem like it's multi-threaded.
Yep.
I've done it where I've used like 2 scripts at once.
That's what I've done as well. Yeah. And then I learned, well, actually, like I said, in Hotkey, I think was his name, Eugene, maybe he created the AutoHotkey H, and he demoed in the webinar that like, it's truly multi-threaded. You don't have to worry about it. I was very impressed. It's just very rare also that's an issue for me. So with the stuff I do with AutoHotkey, I don't care about it much.
It's so fast that sometimes you can't even tell if you're trying to do something.
But Joe, we have a follow-up question from Ashton about WinActive. Not sure I understand his question. Is it necessary to encapsulate the script in directive if WinActive won't return and the script? So it would have to be clarified.
Yeah, Ashton.
Unless you get it.
No, I don't. And I don't quite understand. Encapsulate the script.
Big words.
Active. When I won't return end the script, are you saying that you're trying to kill the script? Is that what end is you're referring to? Meaning ending the script kind of, I mean, it's fine. I'm not quite, end can be used in a couple different ways. And I'm not sure what you mean by encapsulate. Every time I hear, actually, I don't know, Jean, if you wanted to encapsulate, to me is often when I'm parsing text files and you're encapsulating like a comma with double quotes or something.
Yeah, in CSV file. Yeah.
Which I know you've been working on your CSV buddy.
Yeah,
I'm
working on it right now.
But it's yeah, if you could clarify, Ashton, of
I'll have to leave in a few minutes, Joe.
Well, is there anything you want to share from the CSV buddy that you've been doing, or
maybe next week if we have time? It's not quite ready.
Okay.
But yeah. For those who don't know, CSV Buddy is a tool that you can use to process a text file that contains data. So, for example, a CSV file. And here, when you have French Canadian regional settings, your comma separated value will not be separated with comma by default. If you use Excel, for example, it will be separated by semicolon. So, and if you want to import a file exported from Excel to an application that requires having comma as delimiter, so you need to transform your file, and doing it with just find and replace won't work, because if you have comma inside encapsulated field, the one with between double quotes, it won't work. So this tool will process your file and replace your separator, your delimiters, and there's a lot of other features to also export in various formats like HTML or other. So I could demonstrate that next week if we have time. I'm working on a request from one of your friends or colleague, Joe, that asked if it would be possible to create a new field based on the content of the existing fields in the file. So if the file contained name, first name, and city, you could programmatically in your file just add a fourth field that would be the concatenation of or merging other fields. So that's what I'm working on, to create new fields from the existing content. So it's something I worked on first in 2013. It's the first application I wrote using AutoHotkey. After that, I started working on folders pop-up and quick access pop-up and other tools. But so I'm revisited very old code. So then you see,
yeah.
oh, I didn't know at that time that I could do it more efficiently in a different way. So I'm reluctant to change my code now, because when you want to improve something, you can also introduce bugs in your code. So it's a funny situation.
Yeah, well, it's kind of ironic because, and Jean, how long ago was that when I first emailed you? I think maybe in the forum we exchanged a couple posts or something, and I was asking about CSV Buddy, and you helped me out.
I think it was the first topic of our.
It was, yeah. But I'm trying to remember. That was probably like 6 years ago, maybe somewhere in there. I don't know. It was a while ago.
I started. What was 2013 was when I developed it first.
But what was funny was, after you helped me out and I got to using it, you said, have you used my other tool? And I'm like, what other tool? And then you showed me QAP and I'm like, holy cow. Like,
maybe it was folders pop-up at that time.
I don't think it was. In my head, it was, I believe,
it was already okay.
Yeah. So
because
that might help.
At first, the quick access pop-up at first was only to change folders based on other scripts that you can find on the forum that are doing only that. But having suggestion from users and my own ideas, so we added to launch everything. So that's then I changed the name from folders pop-up to quick access pop-up. Yeah.
I'm laughing. I'm laughing with you. Yeah. It's hard to explain stuff over text. Trust me, I 100%. It's kind of ironic you say that, because that's also why I make videos. Right? Is like trying to explain some of these concepts in a web post, like holy moly, right? Like I find making videos and demonstrating so much simpler.
Yeah. So maybe Ashton, I have to leave, but we can continue with you if he wishes. But it could come back next week and just join us on Zoom, and we could post the link. So being on Zoom, you could share your screen if there's no sensitive information.
Or Ashton, if you want, and thank you, Jean. But
and you can do it right now if you wish. I just have to leave, but Joe will. Joe and Tom.
Yeah, well, I was going to say also, if you have my email, you can send me an email, with a little bit of code, and like if you don't want to share it, I'm happy to review it. But thanks, Sean.
So bye, Tom. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
See you later.
Yeah, see you.
The real John.
I see we got
a quick question come up. Let me share my screen here real quick.
Oh, cool.
So I won't dive too deep into this just because I've done multiple videos about it. But I just want to explain, I forget what the person's username was, started with a V, but they're just asking, saying they're having issues with image search. So I'll start off right away and say that image search and pixel search, especially if you're trying to use this in a video game, which for the most part, that's when people are using this, sucks. It's highly inaccurate. It is so easy, especially in video games, just because the lighting can change in the game, shading can change, just looking left and right a little bit.
And games purposely change those to, cause havoc with people trying to do this.
Yeah. And, depending on what you're trying to do, your resolution and stuff, it can be pretty power hungry on your computer too. So it can be very slow sometimes. When I say slow, I mean like a second or two. But in a video game, like something like that can really matter. So basically that's just what I wanted to say, is just like, honestly, image search, you just really got to play with it. There's nothing much I can help you with. As long as you got this formatting right here, like I got up here that I just copied real quick. That's about it. If you want to answer in the comments what you're using this for, maybe I can explain a little bit better. But
Yeah,
that's pretty much where I see 95% of people using image and pixel search as video games, it seems.
hey, not that it matters, but your webcam is over at the end of the path of your text, just FYI. So you don't see it, but I'm looking in YouTube and I'm like, oh, our
I did actually move it down. So I think I
Okay.
have like a 60-second delay set up on my YouTube. So hopefully it pops down here in a second.
Cool. What I was also going to say was, depending on which, I 100% agree with you in anything dealing with games. Now I will mention there was a webinar that Jackie led on image search and doing a better job of finding smaller files. And he wrote an algorithm, does it very fast. I think it's actually part of it's in C#, if I remember right, or something. So you might check the webinar where he did something about image search and finding stuff. But the second one is, if it's not a game, which I told him, I still totally agree with you, but automate my task helps,
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, it's a great simple thing to find images and click them or send text to them or do whatever. And you don't have to learn it's right in the syntax for you, right? And then you export it and you have your syntax. So
and yours is very targeted. It's looking for a very small section.
Right.
Versus where I've seen people who are trying to do an image search for like a huge square. And I'm like, first of all, you're more likely to have it miss and not find it because of the slightest thing. The other thing too is, it's just more power hungry on your CPU. Another thing too, I see a lot of people have issues with when they're trying to do an image search. People don't think about this. A lot of times they're trying to click on a button within like a game or even like on a browser. Something people forget is a lot of times they'll take a screenshot of that button. But you got to remember that a lot of times when you hover your mouse over top of it, it kind of changes the shape.
So Tom, let me interrupt you real quickly, because you're 100%, and that's why with automate my task, let me bring up
that's something people forget so easily.
Yeah. So here, this is actually a new version that's not available publicly yet, but the functionality hasn't changed, right? It's just, this is a little sexier version. So I'm going to hit F1, and let's say I want to find I want to find this find next button, but see the outline, see how it changes blue? Yep. So I'm going to hit F1 and I'm going to move away. And now I hit it again. And now it's going to look for this, not the initial one where my mouse was over it, right? Yeah. And I can say display matches. Hey, look, it found it. It will by default try to do a control click here, which is great because it doesn't interfere with human, doing stuff. So I'm going to hit test, and it actually, I don't know if you saw it, it did it, it clicked it. But if that didn't work, you can hit send an actual click. And when I do this, it's going to move my mouse there and click it. But if I wanted the code to move it back, I could say restore position. So now when I test it, it moves it there, clicks it, moves it back. When I'm happy with all this, then I hit export. And here is the code. And now which you would dump in, and actually at the very beginning of this, we talked about your function library. And if you'd want to use it, I have AMT as a function in my function library. If I unclick this and hit export, you'll see there's a lot more crap. So here's the actual function call, and then this is the function that you'd want the whole thing. But I put the AMT in my function library, and then all I need is just, let me turn that back on.
Yeah, see, and all I need is that you make it so that your mouse is moved away, because that's something that it's so simple, but people miss it all the time.
Yeah. The other really cool thing about this is, if we look at the code here, is over here on these bits. Let's make this a little bigger. Here we can finally see it right here. This is the quote unquote image. I don't have a stored file on my computer. Now, Tom, to your point, it's still a static thing. If I move it to a monitor that has a different resolution, different, the ratio, it's going to break. If I give it to Tom and he tries to run it on his computer, it'll probably break, even though you have the same thing. Like, it's not very good at doing stuff like that. So it's my last resort. However, man, sometimes when you want to do something quick, it's, it's jotting on the spot, easy to just do something. Oh, I need to click this a bunch of times. Hey, you know what? I can do this temporarily and get it done. And I'm not spending a crap load of time trying to write some code.
Have you messed a lot with, trying to read this, getting a process ID? I've never really had a need for it. I know the theories behind it, but
I haven't, but it's in my script that can the scripting. I'm not sure. Let me go back. I know because I had Raptor X doing it, but if let me launch it, Control M, and then let me go to edit. Actually, let me bring over. So this script hub, AHK script hub.
I've never done with AHK before.
You can right click and it'll allow you on any running AutoHotkey script to say, hey, open the folder, reload it, edit it, post, send, suspend, like do all these things, right? So it's really great because if you have a script that doesn't have a system icon, this is a great way to be able to edit it. So I can come in here and I can say, let's say, I don't want to open that one.
To the person on your chat, Vuni, I guess is how you say it. Yeah, in your case, an image search in a PDF file is going to work great. I mean, at least it should. Just because like a PDF file is a PDF file, there's no movement involved really and stuff. So it's really like when people say they have issues, it's I almost guarantee like they're gaming with it is why they're having the issues. I guess he's talking about using it for like OCR though.
And Ashton, sorry, I just saw your note about you can join Zoom. It's already pretty late for today. If you don't mind, if we can do it next week, or if you want, I can get the link and put it in here if we want to try to solve it right now. Anyway, what I was going to comment on the PDF thing is, there's several examples of doing like PDF to text, and you could easily programmatically get text from a document. Now, more often than not, you lose the formatting. But if you know, like a word is always before what you're looking for, the fact that you can programmatically get that text, you can parse it, and maybe it might be a more efficient, accurate way. But that's only if like, hey, every time there's this word in front of what I'm looking for, and it's super fast and very reliable.
Yeah. OCR is awesome. I love using OCR.
Yeah. Ashton, did you want to join right now and try to crank out what we're working on? I'm going to have to go here pretty soon. I'm trying to find.
Yeah, we were busy today.
Yeah, which is awesome.
My chat's going crazy. I'm trying to keep up. It's hard to keep up. Listen to you talk, read what's going on.
Yeah, and thank you and John both for monitoring the chat more than I was necessarily doing, because when you have your own stuff and then you have Zoom's version stuff and then you have YouTube, and it just gets really complex and hard to watch everything.
Yeah, I usually have your chat open too and just kind of glance at it here. That's
awesome.
There. I know John watches it pretty good though. So
well, it's a great question of, I am sure, because I know I've used the YouTube API before, right? I will bet you money the chat stuff is available via API. There's no reason why, because the problem that I'm describing with all the Zoom and the set is it's all the different GUIs and it gets really confusing stuff. But if I could automate pulling those API, via an API, the chats, and easily have it monitor and even make a noise or something and whatever, because that's the problem is, right? I mute YouTube, but then I can't hear when people do stuff. But if I could automate and put even like the Zoom API chat and the YouTube chat in the same darn GUI and have a hotkey that always activates it and shows it to me, or just use the even Maestria notify command to have it pop up on my screen and show me that someone said something, that'd be badass, right? That's something I should probably put on my to-do list.
Look into that. Yeah, I think I'm going to look into that today. Just see what's the best way to grab that information.
Yeah,
that would be awesome to join everything.
Jeeswig, JEESWG, on the AutoHotkey forum, he has a big, maybe it's a class, I can't remember, but using the YouTube API. So he might already have some of the stuff in there. You might want to take a look for that before you try to dive into the API directly. And at some point, Tom, we should talk about API stuff and have a specific example to I don't know if you've seen my API syntax writer, but it's a great cheat sheet for doing stuff with APIs. You can help write your API syntax. It's a good place.
I think I've only ever really with AutoHotkeys, I think maybe once or twice have I used an API, and once was with YouTube. And I think the other one was just with like Zoom or something. I can't remember what it was for.
Yeah, and to clarify, which is why I hate the term API, right? There's like, we can use Python with an API call from AutoHotkey. It's just a programmatic interface where we can programmatically interact with the other tool, right? And then we use the Windows API all the time, right? What I believe, Tom, you were referring to is more about a web service API, which means we're connecting to like a server and submitting a query, usually with like JSON or maybe SQL, whatever. But it's the two terms are used often the same, and it can be cause for confusion. So I just wanted to clarify when typically nowadays when people say API, they're meaning a web service API where they're connected to a server.
That's where my brain goes right away.
Yeah. Oh, I got in a big argument one time over and I had totally forgotten about, hey, there's programmatic APIs for connecting to programs, and in my head it was always a server, and I'm like, oh, my bad. Yeah, you're right. Those are APIs. And I see Vuni said something about OCR. Yeah, it's the world is your oyster, right? There's so many ways you can do stuff. Guy who left, but last week he was demonstrating. He uses the CRM tool that has a funky thing in the screen. He was trying to get some text at a certain spot, but the controls were dynamically updating. And we programmatically kind of faked it where he got it working using the ACC library to connect to and get basically the location of where the grid would be. And then he does OCR on that spot. And so it's a almost not ideal way, but it works, and it works reliably. And but it's just, I wish there should be an API that allows us to programmatically get that text, but we just said, hey, we can get this reliably wherever it is. If he moves it from a different monitor, whatever, it detects where that is, does OCR just in that little spot, and gets.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I did a video on OCR where you can just use your mouse to like kind of highlight the area, and it'll just automatically take a screenshot from there and then spit out it into like a variable or something. And it worked pretty good. It was very reliable, even with like kind of funky, like not your normal like Roman times numeral or whatever text. Right. It did pretty good with other stuff too.
Yeah, and I have it built into my Windows snipping tool, right? So if we have text, and if I think this is the hotkey. Oh no.
Where is that video?
What? That's the normal. Oh, is it control? My bad. No. Why is it's suddenly, of course, acting weird? Let me see if so that is the normal. It's acting weird. How crazy is that? Or it's a different, is it two keys? There we go. So see that text that shows it just used OCR, and look how fast that is. That is nuts. And it puts it on my clipboard, right? That's built into Windows 10, right? And so if you're running Windows 7 or 8, it doesn't have it, unfortunately. But that was why when I saw that, I'm like, holy cow, I need to incorporate that into my screen clipping tools because it's super handy.
And that's something I've been like really getting better at, is like, I'll sit there and code something and then I'll be like, I should check if Windows has this built in. So
right.
Like the other day, somebody wanted, actually I just released
Voice
a
to
video
text
on Monday, was text to speech.
Yeah.
And I was looking at other people's scripts and it's like hundreds and hundreds of lines of code. And I realized like, wait, I know Windows has text to speech built in. And my code ended up literally being a single line of code that basically is doing, I think it was a DLL call. And it just
it's a COM object
over to it.
Yeah, there's a COM object for it. Yeah.
Or no, yeah, it was a COM object. That's what it was. Yeah. And I was like, I see all these people doing like thousands of lines of code to do it. And I'm like, or you can just do it in one line of code. Now, the funny thing is, in my video, in order to change the voice of your system from like female to male or whatever you have built in, it was like 30 lines of code. And I was like, that's just so weird to me that it's so easy to do the text to speech part, but just changing the voice, it's like a whole bunch of like other stuff. And it was just like so weird to me. Yeah, that's something I got to get in the habit of, is just being like, is this built into Windows? And then how do I just call upon it? And that's it in the story.
Is it the SAPI speech? Is that what it's called? I think something like that. SAPI.
That's built into the Windows.
Well, the Windows API it's the COM object is like SAPI something. SAPI.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think I just used.
It's been a few years.
I just made this code like a week ago, and I already forget what it was. Yeah, I got it pulled up here. Let me see what I did again. Yeah, it was a single. Yeah, it was a COM object. Yep, SAPI.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, SAPI Voice.
Yeah, and that has been built into Windows, I think, since at least XP, right? It's been around for quite a while.
I think it was, since Service Package 5 or something. So many years. So whenever I'm pretty sure it was Service Package 5. So whenever that came out, which I know was a very long time ago. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got. I have a question on here, but it's something I'm going to look at a little bit more into, just because I haven't messed around with process IDs too much. Never had much need for it.
Yeah, that was where, anyway, yeah, that's fine. I got to run anyways after normal time. But there are times when it's for me, usually when it becomes a thing that you care about is you're launching, there's multiple instances of a given program. And so when you launch one, you want to be able to refer back to that specific one and identify it. And what's up?
That's what I was asking him, if he can see that kind of information, if he's seeing multiple instances. He said no, but I thought it's probably in there somewhere. Just under
the other one, whereas the other ones you might launch something and it's from a command prompt kind of thing, and you need to be able to programmatically identify which thread, so to speak, that was. But yeah, I like Utah. I don't use them often at all, but it is easy to do in AutoHotkey. It's one command. I think it's the when exists. Is that what it is? That it returns it right away? Or I know there's one that just.
And I think you said the PID at the end. Yeah. I just use if wind active, and I just use the executable name. I don't ever use the PID. I'll just use the executable.
Yeah. Well, and again, that's where if you have multiple instances of something, that's where that it will fail. But it's rare these days where we have multiple things of whatever. All right. Well, thanks everyone, and glad you made it, Tom.
Yeah, and just
how's your wife? Tom tried to poison his wife last week. I'm telling the world, Tom.
I learned that you should check the expiration dates on your chicken in the cans. I'm just so used to canned food lasting like forever. Like I've never had an issue where like it's like, oh, this canned food, it lasts for 3 years. I'm going to eat it in the next 3 years.
Even then, apparently you can go like 10, usually it's fine. Yeah,
it's forever. But I guess it's been sitting there on the shelf for a lot of years. And like, I don't feel so good. And I was like, let me check the expiration date. I didn't think to do that. And I was like, you're going to be angry. It expired like 2 years ago.
Oh my, All right. Well, thanks everyone.
The good thing about food poisoning, it lasts like 24 hours and you're better.
Right.
All right, guys. If you guys have any more questions or didn't get a question answered today or want us to expand, there'll be a link in both our descriptions for the Joe's survey where you can upload your script, ask the question. That way it gives us a little bit of a head start. So we're not just sitting here fumbling around trying to understand